Deep within the rolling green Nilgiri hills of Ooty lies Fern Hills Palace. Built in 1844, the estate was designed as an authentic Swiss chalet, featuring intricately carved wooden barge boards and rich imported Burmese teak finishes. For decades, it served as an exclusive summer sanctuary. British elites fled here to escape the heat of the Madras Plains, and it eventually became the summer residence of the Maharaja of Mysore. Through its prime, the palace hosted massive formal gatherings, cementing its status as an elite cornerstone of Indian high society. A century of royal pedigree should have secured Fern Hills as a permanent historical monument. Today, however, the public record suggests a different history. Search for the palace online today, and the results favor something other than its 19th century architecture. Instead, it is almost universally ranked on lists of India's most haunted places. Usually, a reputation that terrifying requires an ancient curse or a centuries-old tragedy. But this particular ghost story is rooted in a modern pop culture event. How does a single 21st century Bollywood film shoot manage to overshadow the legacy of a 170-year-old luxury palace? In 2002, a film crew arrived at the estate to shoot on location for the Bollywood horror movie, Raz. Legendary Bollywood choreographer Saroj Khan was on set. After a long day of production, she and her dance troupe checked into their rooms for the night, expecting quiet rest. Instead, they were kept awake by a deafening racket directly above their ceiling. It sounded like heavy wooden furniture being aggressively dragged across the floorboards. Frightened, they tried to call the front desk, but the phones were dead and no one answered the call. They endured the noise all night. But when the exhausted crew complained to the receptionist the next morning, they were told that there was absolutely no floor above their room. It was a specific, terrifying anecdote, and it provided the viral seed necessary for an entirely new urban legend to take root. Once a ghost story enters the digital ecosystem, it creates a narrative vacuum. The internet rushes in to fill those gaps with fabricated lore. First, an origin story is retrofitted. Rumors surfaced about a British officer murdered during the 1857 mutiny haunting the halls. Then the story escalated. Tales of suicidal women emerged, followed by claims it was built over an ancient burial ground. The hysteria reached a peak in 2018 when Fern Hills Palace temporarily closed its doors to the public. The actual reason for the closure was standard property renovation, but the public narrative largely ignored the construction, insisting the hotel was shut down due to extreme paranormal activity. By 2018, the digital narrative had become as prominent as the building itself. For a massive online audience, the palace was no longer a heritage site, it was a destination for the supernatural. But if we look at the cold facts of that inciting incident, a different picture emerges. Consider the timing. A crew experienced a perfectly scripted, cinematic haunting while in the middle of producing a supernatural horror movie. This suggests the entire event may have been a piece of promotional marketing designed to build hype, a stunt that simply escaped its creator's control. Modern verified guest reviews from travel platforms show a shift back to reality. Visitors actively debunk the myths, explicitly telling others to ignore the rumors, noting there is nothing spooky about the estate at all. The palace's modern reputation didn't emerge from the building's walls, but from a production schedule. It illustrates how easily a century of history can be overshadowed by a well-timed story. Today, Fern Hills Palace operates exactly as it was intended, as a luxury heritage resort. Look at the timeline of the property. It took decades of labor to build, and over a century to establish a royal legacy. And despite that massive historical weight, it took only one night of viral storytelling to displace its original legacy. Fern Hills Palace proves that in the digital age, a catchy piece of folklore is far more resilient than historical fact.